John Cordy. For this video I wanted to talk about a couple of different things. So first of all, the idea for this video came from Robert Hamilton, who'd asked me, there's this tune, Eric Johnson does a cover of Stevie Wonder's Uptight, and would you break down some of that for me? So there's a little interlude part in the middle of the tune which I thought sounds really interesting, and I thought this would make a cool video for a couple of reasons. So first of all, the actual part, I don't know if you can actually see this, better check. The actual part itself, so we start up here, we're going to be using some open string stuff, and so I'll just show you the part and then we can talk about some other things. So we start on the 7th fret, playing a B on the D string, and then an F sharp as well on the G string on the 11th fret. And we start with that kind of, and then an open string on the B string. Okay, so those, and then we're going to play the 3rd, so a D sharp on the D string on the 13th fret. And then we're going to play an open E string, something like this. So you hear open B, 13th fret D, and then open E, and then end on that F sharp on the G string again, and then the phrase ends on this 12th fret B. And then the second part of the phrase goes kind of a big stretch. We got an A, an E, so like an A major 7 with that G sharp here. So we're going to play the octave A and then come down like an E5 add 9 or E sus, however you want to think about it. And then we come down here for the B, with an open E, and then this is a really kind of cool but difficult chord. So we got a C sharp, a G sharp, an A, a B and an E. And then just an E. So it goes something like that. And then it repeats that kind of thing for a while. So you could spend a while practicing this, but what I wanted to talk about is really how I might practice this. So although it's a really cool part and all of that stuff, it doesn't occur too much in the song, so I thought it'd be an opportunity to talk about how I might practice this actual part. So the first real phase of all of this learning stuff is to play the thing slowly, and the reason that you're doing this is for a number of reasons, but essentially you're noticing things as they happen and things that maybe aren't going correctly, and you're more likely to be able to execute the thing. So it's quite tempting to try and speed things up if we know that the thing has like a target goal, but what I'd encourage you to do is spend more time on the thing slowly so that you actually definitely know the part, and try and play it musically at the slow tempo, and imagine you're playing that piece of music at that tempo and trying to make that as expressive as you can and as musical as you can without the goal of it being any faster. So you spend time in a kind of meditative Zen state trying to get this thing together, and whatever tempo you're practicing at becomes the tempo of the thing. And so that's kind of the most, I think, important phase of the practice, is putting it together and getting it off of the page if you're learning from a page, or off of the video that you're learning it from, and starting to get it under your fingers. So that's why I think it's important to do that part slowly. Okay, and then we could start to introduce something like a metronome. So here we go. I use Soundbrenner for this kind of stuff. And what I'd like to do is I'll start it off nice and slow, and maybe start with 2 clicks per bar. 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And the reason that I might introduce a metronome nice and early on is that it helps me to focus on whether I'm actually placing things in time. And it also gives me something to also work on my timing at the same time as learning a part. So we're kind of doing a couple of things at once, and hopefully it's translating to real kind of musical skills. So what I'm going to be doing is listening for the click and trying to make sure that I'm not rushing ahead of it. That's my tendency, so that's what I'm trying to avoid for. Then also notice little mistakes or little bits of stuff that happen, and instead of getting frustrated with it, we're just noticing it and it's happening, but the next time we play it we're going to notice and see if that happens again. And then also you can experiment with kind of trying different dynamics. So maybe you try and play it quietly and try and play it loud to try and keep yourself present and not getting distracted, and trying to keep the thing musical instead of being like a subconscious thing. So let's just try it quietly. Quite land that. Okay, so as we're playing it slowly, I'm noticing the little things that are happening. You know, maybe there's certain chord grips that I don't nail, so I'm just quietly trying to get better at it and not getting frustrated, but I'm just allowing myself to make these mistakes and just try and improve the part. And the thing with this kind of stuff is you're going to start to lose concentration. This is just a natural part of practice. Other things are going to get in the way. So things that I might try to do to mitigate this, I might put this click now on 2 and 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm varying things, you know, and I'm thinking, right, what if I put that click somewhere else? The other thing you could do is even to rely on your own timing more. This is something that I've found as a younger person. I've developed a little bit of a tendency to rely on the metronome for the timing, so dropping down to like half speed or just 1 click per bar as well can really help you to figure out whether you're actually So it's now on beat 4, 3, 4. Okay, or you could move it on to beat 1. 1, 2, 3, 4. Try not to rush. The amount of time that you put into this will kind of vary for every kind of person, but I think you can find there's a certain amount of concentration that you'll be able to achieve. And so for some people this might be 5 to 10 minutes a day, or for other people it might be a bit longer, but there's like sort of a limit. You can kind of push through that limit and you can get frustrated at mistakes and stuff, but just try and let that pass and then just come back to the practice. So I was practicing this on a live stream earlier, so I wanted to just put some kind of highlights about different bits and pieces that I noticed and kind of ideas. Hopefully there might be 1 or 2 things in there that might help other folks. If you want to get the tab for this particular little passage, I think it's quite a nice one. That'll be up on my Patreon. But yeah, hopefully that was vaguely interesting. If you wanted to like and subscribe, you could. And hopefully there'll be some more stuff on the channel that might be interesting to you. But keeping things nice, slow, calm, not focusing on mistakes but noticing them and then trying to rectify those. These are some of the ways that I would try to nail a part. So this is the most important part, where you're first getting it under your fingers. Maybe also try doing things like counting along. This will be something I talk about in a minute. You might just go 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Really hard. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And focusing on these things rather than aiming for this really high speed will probably enable you to get there eventually. Then I'd gradually start to increase the tempo maybe. So if we put this up to kind of closer to my target goal, we can see what happens. 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4.
3, 4. 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4.
But you'll find that you might make more mistakes if you rush that too fast ahead, and that can quickly build up into a kind of frustration rather than actually meaningful practice. So I would encourage you to spend more time at this slower kind of tempo and try and feel what it feels like to make that music at that tempo. Try and make it musical and try and play with different dynamics and use that as a way to kind of stay in the moment of practicing at the slower tempos, and then gradually increase that when things are actually coming off. Hopefully that will help you to get more out of these kind of intricate parts that you're trying to practice and nail. Also, taking regular breaks is sensible. Don't get too frustrated or stuck in the same place with one thing at a time. sleep really helps this stuff. So anytime that I've put in like a long practice session on something like this, or repeated practice, you find that kind of sleep will help to uncloud what has happened. So your brain will gradually get to a point where no matter how much you practice it, you probably find that you're making mistakes again, and it feels like you're kind of taking retrograde steps. Normally, when I've slept on a thing, actually you'll find that practice session really is more solidified, and whatever you were working on has actually improved considerably over the time that you've spent away from it. So those are some tips. So I'm noticing that I keep hitting that this finger here. I'm not getting it to. So I need to practice that. What I'm going to do is just practice resetting and try and notice what it feels like when I'm actually playing it and it rings out. So it's not like that. So not too much, because it's going to end up hurting my wrist or let's bring it a bit better. Better. Once the thing is kind of sounding how I want it to sound, then maybe I'd consider increasing the speed. So we'll put 1, 2, 3, 4. One more time. One more time. One more time. Too fast. Yeah. Right, so the timing got ahead of itself there, so I got over whatever confident or whatever the word might be. 4. One more time. So yeah, I'm going to do it, maybe try and play it 4 times cleanly in a row, and then if it's feeling good and sounding good, I might move the tempo up a bit. So let's just try that. 3, 4. Hey Jim. 4. Right, so that dead note means maybe I'm not ready to move on, or maybe I'm not concentrating enough or something. Right, so I'm going to try and up that tempo a bit again. Again, the goal isn't necessarily that as a kid I would have been rushing to get this as fast as possible, as quick as I could, and as I've grown up a bit, that's not really the goal anymore. There's kind of a Zen goal, a meta goal, where it's just practicing as much as anything else, if that makes sense. So trying to have good habits where you're paying attention to different bits and pieces rather than just trying to play fast, and that kind of stuff is a thing as I've got old. So other things to kind of, as you get comfortable with the part and you get comfortable with the timing, you want to start to think maybe about other aspects of the playing. So as I say, you think about maybe pulling the timing or playing as if this was the tempo of the piece, and instead of thinking, I need to get this faster, but also thinking about maybe dynamically try and play it soft, try and play it a little bit louder. And those are things that, again, just mentally take you to a different place, so you're not overthinking each tiny little micro movement or whatever. Oi, oi, Jim. I feel like I have to practice standing. Yeah, I would play standing more often than not. That's what I've been doing now. Just for health reasons, I think it's a bit healthier than sitting down and practicing. I found that, you know, that had become an issue more recently. So that's a thing that I do way more often now, is just practice standing. There's no reason to be sitting down unless you need to. Personally, I feel like I can stand all day and it doesn't feel like anything really. It's just fine. So yeah, Tidal Embers asks, do you sometimes things are actually harder to play slowly? I think the thing about playing slowly is you probably notice things a little bit more. So if you're playing a legato line, I can notice way more when I'm playing it slowly how dodgy my timing is. The slow tempo thing just helps you be more aware of what's going on, I think, and also you can probably tell more when things feel a bit off, you know, so like whether there's a note which didn't ring out properly. If you just blast through it at tempo, I don't think you necessarily are as conscious of the things that aren't necessarily being executed as you'd like. It's just way more obvious when things are rushed. You'll notice if you practice the thing for a while, you have these lapses in concentration and times where it doesn't really go very well at all. So like Richie said, you mean that you keep practicing over the point where you already lose concentration and start making mistakes more than usual. This is what feels like it's happening right now. But those kind of ebb and flow, I think, through a practice session. So if you get frustrated with it, it will last longer, that period. But if you just let the mistakes happen a little bit and don't really judge them too much, but just try and execute, then hopefully that passes quicker than it would if you just get frustrated. So with this kind of, when it's me counting, I want to be kind of conscious of not just rushing and constantly increasing in speed. That's what I'm trying to be aware of. So maybe you could also try actually physically counting, which might be difficult. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. So that's again a thing that I think would have been hugely helpful if I'd practiced doing this sort of thing more when I was younger. Physically counting whilst playing can be incredibly difficult. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1,